don't have any history of finger-wagging fans on this program, and I'm not about to start today. But good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or hockey. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins. I hope you'll check those out as well. The Texas Rangers are World Series champions. That's something that no one's ever spoken previously. 52 years that franchise has been in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and 52 years they weren't able to say that. It's been kind of a nondescript team over the decades. There's never really been that one moment or that one, even really the player. I guess you could point to, Nolan Ryan having really spent some of his most important years. And then, of course, he became a member of the front office and an owner later on. But for the most part, Texas Rangers, but there it was. They won. And guess who else won? That's right, pal. Austin Hedges is being fitted for a ring sometime in the very near future. Austin Hedges, who was the recipient of loud, long, and regular booing at PNC Park, not just occasional situational booing, but you exist and therefore we are booing kind of booing. And I did hear from people who were part of that, who were saying, listen, it's not at him, it's at management for playing him, it's at Derek Shelton for putting his name in the lineup, and whatever. The end result is that the player, every time they'd play his music and every time he'd head toward the batter's box, was getting booed. Not Shelton when he was coming out of the dugout. Nobody was turning around and finding Ben Cherington in the GM's box and booing him. They were booing that guy. And he didn't take well to it. He wasn't nasty about it, but he also wasn't, unmoved. He had not dealt with something like that before. Most big league athletes in any sport do get affected by booing for the main reason that they're not used to it. They've been, if you think about this, completely within the prism of their own lives. Really big successes. That started with childhood. They were special. They were the best kid on the team. They were the best kid in Legion Ball, in high school, in college. Then they were drafted and they were the best kid on their minor league team or one of the couple best. And they rocketed up through the minors and got their names printed in Baseball America and everything else. And they make it to the majors. And in Hedges' case, and a lot of major leaguers obviously made a career out of it. Been there for a while. Hedges was a fairly popular player, to the best of my understanding, in Cleveland. They just knew what he was. They accepted what he was. But the Guardians were very good while he was there, so nobody went after him. The Guardians had an offense, so nobody went and picked out the one guy on the roster hitting 163. The Guardians presumably have a hitting coach. Pittsburgh doesn't. So everything conspired for everyone to go after the guy essentially at the bottom of the depth chart, the 26th man, always the easiest target. Players don't like when they get booed. Players don't like when their teammates get booed. They feel like the job is tough enough. They feel like they're trying extra hard, if anything, to break out of whatever it is that's getting them booed, and they feel like that only hurts. Again, not just the players, but also their teammates. And it makes for a bad feel, a bad vibe between the team that's taking the field and the crowd that's there theoretically to cheer them on. The only reason I say any of this, I'm going to repeat this. This isn't about finger wagging, about booing. You can do whatever you want. Just don't turn around and boo the press box. That'd be really weird. But otherwise, you can do whatever you want. Players will make the move for themselves and their families that's the best for them. Whenever that time comes, whenever that option is available. And they will do so with very, very, very few exceptions, without thinking for one split second about where they've played or in front of whom they've played. And when they do this, they're often referred to as being selfish or greedy, or there's no hometown loyalty or hometown discount. That's the one they really don't like. Why are we giving a discount? Is someone else in any other type of job going up to their employer and saying, oh, I'd rather work for you because you're offering less, but I like you? No. Why are professional athletes expected to do that? They're going to go where the money is, almost without fail, up to and including even those who stay. Because if you think about just over the last couple of years in Pittsburgh, Brian Hayes stayed. Well, yeah, Key got money he probably wasn't going to get somewhere else. It was only 4 or 5 months ago that everybody was wondering if that was a bust of a contract. Brian Reynolds. Yeah, there was a bit of fuss coming through spring training, and then when he looked like Ted Williams in the first week of the season, gotta sign him. Well, they did. Now, both Key and Brian wanted to stay. I told you guys that beforehand, and I wasn't lying, and they weren't lying. They both wanted to stay. But if it had reached the point where it looked like they weren't going to get extensions here, or that they were just going to be allowed to, work through their arbitration years and go to free agency, believe you me, they'd both be gone. And I'd have no problem with it, but I would imagine a lot of people here would, and not just with Bob Nutting, but also with the players themselves. Austin Hedges and his example is why, or part of why, players and their agents and everyone else involved in those big decisions behave as they do, because they know that the fans in the city can turn on you like that. When we come back, J1Q.
This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern, that's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park.
Your front door, your car, your bike, your computer, your gun. Safety is a habit. Every day you lock and secure your home and everything you want to keep safe. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Today's J1Q, or at least J1R for just one request, comes from Mike, who says, I'd like to hear a daily shot on DK's top 10 list of Bob Nutting's shortcomings. Now, if you missed yesterday's show, you'll have missed that I was calling out Nutting by really ranking his shortcomings as an owner and saying that the payroll might not even crack the top 10. And I mentioned that what I believe is his number one shortcoming is that he is an over-delegator. He will trust the people under him, which, reminder, is everyone, to a fault. And as he's told me himself in the past, the moment that he can't trust them to make such decisions is the moment that they really shouldn't be working for him anymore. Well, that sounds like a pretty neat philosophy in general. I'm not so sure it applies here, and I'm definitely sure that it doesn't work. You've got to be, as a sports owner, not just able, but willing, eager to get involved to an extent. And that doesn't mean you have to come in and say, hey, what are we doing with Mlodzinski's slider? Okay. But it does mean that you can come in and say, what do we need here? Or what's going on with this? Why can't we hit? Why is this player or that player that we sent somewhere else all of a sudden hitting or all of a sudden pitching? Those are the things you need to hear from the person at the top of any corporate structure in order for there to be this little thing called accountability. Accountability doesn't always mean firing somebody. In fact, it very rarely means firing somebody. It just means trying to get the right answers and then from there trying to steer things in the right direction. You'll notice here so far, Mike, that I've not answered your question at all because that would require 9 more things on the list. Now, if I had all the time in the world, I could sit here and come up with a few more, but I think you got my point. This particular trait of Nutting's does a lot more damage to the Pirates than any payroll figure he can cite in the wintertime. I appreciate the question. I appreciate the bold attempt on your part. And we will have another one of these shows tomorrow.